This is TWiT.
This episode of Tech Break is brought to you by ACI Learning. ACI Learning provides world-class service from beginning to end of your training journey and beyond. Fortify your expertise with access to self-paced IT training videos, interactive practice labs, and certification practice tests. Individuals use the code TWIT30 for 30% off a standard or premium individual IT Pro membership at go.acilearning.com/twit.
Do we start though with Reddit? Reddit is just, man, this whole saga is just crazy right now. I gotta admit, like, I'm a little sad because, and I'm sure, you know, Leo and you, Jeff, and others have already kind of had the opportunity to talk about this a little bit. But, you know, it was not very long ago that I stopped my interaction with Twitter. Like, I really don't do much of anything with Twitter anymore. The sour taste in my mouth, and the further I got away from it, the more I realized, I'm not really missing it that much, so I'll just keep doing this thing. Reddit, though, has been a constant for a very long time, and it's not a constant in my life that I'm sharing a million different posts on a million different subreddits all the time. It's been more of just like something I go to learn and to get get a really nice take on what's happening right now and how people feel about it, which is, I guess, largely what social media is about. But I can't explain why it's different in my mind and my experience to something like a Twitter or a Facebook. Reddit has just been a really enjoyable thing for me.
Is every community, because I don't use Reddit enough, what's the structure of Reddit that fascinates me, that I hope is a model for the future until now, is the idea that the moderators and the communities have control over the culture of each community independently.
Yeah.
Do you sense that difference as you go from one subreddit to another?
Sure. I mean, I definitely, you know, I probably follow 30 or 40 different subreddits, and They all have their own different, you know, rules and everything. I think that's one of the things that I actually do like. I think you've kind of put your finger on it, is to a certain degree, subreddits feel like bulletin board systems to me. And that harkens to a day, you know, when I was much younger, and this like magical idea of like, oh, wait a minute, there's people over there talking about this thing that I also care about. I'm going to call up that BBS and connect to it and be part of the conversation. And, you know, even if there's only like 10 people there, like, we're 10 people that love the same thing. And so we talk about it.
It brings it back to the scale of humanity. It's really nice.
Yeah. And I kind of get a little bit of that vibe when I go into subreddits. Like, there's a community there that's really excited about talking about Google Pixel phones, or there's a community that's really excited about, this is a great one, about power washing. Like, I subscribe to a subreddit where all it is people sharing like really satisfying power washing videos. And like, that sounds ridiculous, but yet every time I see one of those videos pop up in my feed, I stop and I watch it because it's just really satisfying. And here's a bunch of other
TV
people who
shows
feel the
about
same
popping
way.
zits, so why not? Yeah.
Totally. I mean, I can't do that, but I also understand, I suppose.
Yes.
So, it's sad to me to see that Reddit is undergoing kind of a similar moment to what Twitter kind of did last year. That's what it feels like to me. I mean, and certainly it's shaken the foundational kind of feeling that I've had about Reddit of being like, oh yeah, you know what, this is one of the good places. And now I'm seeing the CEO just being very, I don't know. It's just like the way he's talking about the people who have donated their time to manage these subreddits. It just feels very, I don't know what the word is, but he's just very angry. And I guess it's his job to be angry.
So the CEO Steve Huffman, he's one of the co-founders, and his perspective is roughly as follows. Reddit is not profitable, and it's also, because of the structure and other things, it's an excellent source of data to train AI. So all of these companies are just hoovering up all this very well organized data and using it and making a lot of money off of it. So they're making money off of something that we're providing for free, and we're not profitable ourselves. So we need to make sure we charge money for people who are making a lot of money off of it. So that's his perspective. Mm-hmm. Here's the other perspective. I guess you might call it my perspective. Here's a guy who is a content site, and it's also a social networking site, right? So the content is all provided to the company for free, by volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
The social networking part, the moderation and the organization is all provided for free. And he's not profitable. Like, how is it, like, whose fault is it that Reddit is not profitable?
Well, because the advertising model around interaction has always been crappy.
Well, yes, but I mean, look at the cost advantages. So here, another component of this is that there are all these third-party apps. So his perspective is, oh, these third-party apps are just accessing the site for free. My perspective is people are also donating and voluntarily donating application programming expertise.
Yes,
to
but
Reddit
those apps don't carry ads.
Your
apps don't carry ads.
Like, why couldn't Reddit make a good app? Their apps are terrible. And that's why people are doing third-party apps. And so to me, every part of this story points to Steve Huffman as a failure as a CEO. They should be highly profitable. They're running a website, right? Where moderation and content creation is all for free. And so it's like, how do you got to be able to make that profitable, even in the wonky ad market. There's got to be ways to do it. I bet there are a lot of CEOs and potential CEOs in Silicon Valley who could make it profitable.
I agree with that statement. Yeah. I'm sure someone could.
Mike, and again, I'm not a big Reddit user, so I don't know, but having, I mean, and I don't think it's bad, it's just full disclosure, but Reddit was bought by my old boss, Steve Newhouse, in advance. I didn't get any piece of it. But I know from my days working for Advance, which Steve Newhouse believes strongly in interaction, in forums and comments and conversation. Moderation does bring a cost in addition because you got lawyers and all kinds of stuff. B, there's never been much of an ad market around that because advertisers are scared of public voice. They're scared of a lack of control. They're convinced by media companies that you've got to be in a controlled environment of media content. And so that's really pretty crappy. Now, yes, ads have been on Twitter, but Twitter didn't make it either. Ads are on Facebook, but Facebook controls it more as a mass structure with more use of personal data. So yeah, there are probably ways to do it. I'm not sure how many of those ways you'd like. So I don't know how well to judge the failure. I think Huffman's failure in this case is more about bedside manner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
It's one matter if we said, listen, folks, we all love this thing. We've got to align our interests. We've got to get ads onto apps and we can share revenue, and we got to do this and we got to do that, but we got to pull together, not unlike what's happening at this company, even at difficult times around ads, around TWiT. And start a club and start other mechanisms. So yes, instead he attacks the people who provide this tremendous value for free. Not smart.
Well, there's the PR aspect of it, which he's failing at, but there's also he's basically saying, okay, these big companies are making money using our API for free and taking all this data. Okay, where's the proposal to have a tiered payment and free payment for API access? Why isn't he charging OpenAI, $100 million a year, charging an app developer nothing because that benefits the community, and having maybe a couple of tiers for advertisers, people, because a lot of the advertising on Reddit is kind of like quasi-advertorial. They look like legit submissions. It's, Twitter's like that a little bit with their advertising. I mean, why is nobody holding his feet to the fire about the ridiculous notion that because big companies are using the data for free, that committed users and moderators and app developers also have to pay the prices that they would charge Google, for example, or Microsoft?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah,
it's a feels like a logical fallacy of some kind.
I totally agree.
Because these companies are making money, the people who are not making money also have to pay. Doesn't make sense.
That was a big part of my confusion early on in this little saga, this major Reddit saga, where the API switch, was looming, and third-party app developers were basically led to believe, like Reddit's saying, "Hey, look, we're not going to hold you out or put your What is the metaphor I'm looking for?
Hold your feet to the fire.
We're not going to throw
you out to dry.
Yeah. Whatever it is, we're not going to throw you out. We're going to pay attention to you. We respect you, and don't worry about it. And then when the announcement comes that, oh, okay, so here's the actual details, the details are so far outside of any sort of realm of reality that no third-party app, technically, yes, you're right. If a third-party app wants to pay you millions of dollars, they can continue doing the thing. So I guess you got that right. But no third-party app is going to actually do that. And so that felt very, very much like a fallacy, kind of like what you're saying, Mike.
Right.
Jason, I think... Yeah. Go ahead. You go.
Well, I was just going to say that one thing that I don't understand, when we're talking about like Reddit needs to make money and they make money off of ads and how can they make more money off of ads? Why was it never considered, or maybe it was and I missed it, but why can't third-party apps have the ads in them too? Like, sure, continue doing it, but we need you to respect our ad platform and serve our ads to your users. I mean, that makes sense to me. I'm sure any of the third-party apps probably would have been open to that if it meant they could continue to exist.
You could also pull an use of the API. I mean, Reddit could have made it a condition of the use of the APIs. You have to carry our ads.
Totally.
Or you could pull an Apple and say, okay, you can have a third-party Reddit app. You can sell ads on that, but we'll take 1/3 of that. That would still be a good business for app developers, right?
Oh,
and
heck
they would
yes.
have an additional source of ad revenue. They're I see zero creativity about the problem of not being profitable. Just like, okay, let's just go out there and just fundamentally understand that the product is the volunteer moderation and the volunteer content creation. That is Reddit. That's why people go to Reddit. And to sort of like pick a fight with those people, those communities, is just it's really ridiculous. It feels so much like Twitter, where the people who really built Twitter. It's not
quite as venal an owner now.
That's true. That's absolutely true. But it's that war is still happening, and for somebody at the top running the place to fundamentally misunderstand what it is he's running, it feels very similar in that sense, even though it's a completely different scale.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I think, Jason, to your point before, is I'm and I don't know anything about this, but I'm just guessing that they had a sense of what they would charge for the API, and then along comes Open AI. And copyright, I was just writing about this for something else. Copyright holders are seeing, the little dollar signs in the cartoon eyes going around thinking, oh, they're using my content to train their systems. They're going to make a fortune. They're not yet. And I'm owed all this money because it's copyright. Rupert Murdoch and Barry Diller are screaming about this already. You owe us money. You can't use our content. Well, a couple of things about that. One is, I think it's fair use to learn from existing content. They don't record it. They don't replicate it. They just learn from it. I also think that what comes out of LLMs is transformative. So that fits the law in terms of fair use. So I'm not sure there's a bag of money to be had there. I did an event this last week with Bertelsmann's investment fund, and I moderated 2 sessions on AI. And in one of them, it's Chatham House, so I guess I can't quote. One thing I hate about Chatham House is I want to give credit to someone, but I can't unless I ask them permission. So a person I was talking to there said that he would advise, the legal battle is going to go on forever, but go ahead and negotiate now because you want to just get on with your work and come up with some stuff and just act like you got to and do it. But I think what happened with Reddit in part was that huge dollar amount of their API. They knew that LLMs were using them to train on because it's really valuable. There's tons of content. They've got an API. It's kind of great. Twitter doesn't anymore. Facebook never had in this way. So they do stand alone in the value to those models. Yeah. But to charge the same value to Sam Altman and a volunteer who made an app that expands your value in the marketplace is wrongheaded.
Yeah,
totally. Absolutely. The other thing that bothers me is that when you run a company and you notice that companies are using the data for generative AI purposes, and your response is, we're going to charge everybody a ton of money just so we can get those. That is the first thing I would think of if I was running it, would be, why don't we use it for generative AI? Imagine a search engine based on Reddit data, it'd be killer. There's so much good information on Reddit.
Yeah. There's some bad information there too, but
exactly. But that's the beauty of Reddit. The bad information gets dumped to the bottom, and the good information, on the whole, gets raised to the top. You could weight the cred of the data, of the information, based on the community. So the thumbs up data would rank higher in how the generative AI worked, and you'd have a really great. Would not be like what we're seeing out there with other generative AI attempts at search engines, where it's, everything's kind of treated equally to a certain extent. No, you could use the fundamental nature of Reddit, which is the user moderation and the crowdsourcing of the value up or down, to weight the value of the content that's used to construct the one true answer you get from a generative AI based search engine. It could be the greatest search engine ever built. I don't hear those proposals coming out of Reddit, and this could be even a separate site that would compete directly with Google search, et cetera. Where's that proposal? That could be huge. That could be a huge business, and it wouldn't presumably bother the Reddit community. So I don't know. The lack of creativity.
So I'm curious, where do you both think this is going to end up? Is there going to be peace found and the mods will come back and we'll be okay, or is this a permanent damage to Reddit?
I don't get the feeling.
I think it's the latter. I'm afraid. I just like every other every other social network. It's just enshirtification, as Leo says, where it's going to be wounded and will remain wounded, and a lesser site than it used to be.
It's why we can't stand centralized social.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
It's against the internet.
I agree, unfortunately, that I'd be really surprised if suddenly the CEO is like, I realized I was trash talking everybody. I'm really sorry. And which I think is at least the beginning of what would need to happen to kind of start undoing the ill feelings that a lot of these moderators have. I think it just kind of permanently changes it, and some of those people are going to get out, and new people will come in, and they'll adhere to the new rules, whatever the new rules are, because the CEO has definitely talked about instituting new rules to give moderators less influence, less control, and it's just a bummer.
He's also trying to change the rules a bit so that it's easier to vote out mods that are not playing ball with the company, right? So there are changes afoot where he's trying to make that happen. It's a real problem that Reddit isn't a public company, because there's no board of directors that can fire him.
Right.
And
that's what they're trying to get to, Mike, because he's trying to go to an IPO.
Yes, I know, but this is going to delay it by who knows how long.
Well, that's a really great question.
Let me disagree with you, Mike. Being a public company is in the end what borked Twitter. But because there was no decent stock structure, and Knight Ridder and other companies, right? Because there wasn't a stock structure to enable a beneficent leader, which is, I think, Steve Newhouse in the end, in the case of Reddit, to do things. Steve bought Reddit wholesale, then put it back out there so that there was equity, so that the people who were doing it could raise up. And now they're trying to get to an IPO to do that. But public market is no panacea.
Well, but if you look at Twitter, for example, obviously Elon Musk made it private, and now he can't be fired. With his record of bumbling and failure and the billions of dollars, the tens of billions of dollars of valuation lost, at least $20 billion of valuation lost, he would have been fired in a public company. I mean, the degree to which he is failing from a financial point of view, from the point of view of a board of directors, he would have been fired and they'd put somebody else in there. Of course, he did hire another CEO, but he still owns a place and makes all the decisions. But I agree that it's not a panacea, but Steve Huffman should be fired. And I don't see how that's going to happen, given that they don't have a board of directors who accountable to shareholders.
What is the impact that we see of this on this kind of looming IPO? I mean, I would imagine a situation like this isn't great for the possibility of an IPO in the near term, or Or will this convince certain potential shareholders that like, oh, hey, you know, and someone's really running the company that has our best interest in mind. So maybe this elevates the IPO possibility.
I mean, I think that one of the ways that mods are protesting is they're making subreddits that are in fact safe for work. They're designating them as not safe for work, which means advertising won't be displayed, which means
direct
if it's done at scale,
impact.
the company loses a lot of advertising dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So they're taking a hit financially. You know, of course, it's not a public company, so we don't get all the details, but surely they're taking a big hit in advertising dollars. And so that's going to give potential investors pause. It's also a source of trouble and controversy. That's going to give them pause. So yes, he seems to be acting in a way that is, he's being assertive toward the cause of revenue and all that kind of stuff. But it's a bumbling kind of assertion. It's a wrong-headed kind of assertion. And ultimately, it's just creating controversy and problems for Reddit, which is not appealing to potential investors. So I don't think there's going to be any serious talk of an IPO anytime in the next year at least, and probably more than that. I mean, I just don't see how they're going to get to the point where, oh yeah, this looks like a great money-making business that is going to just soar and grow and become this gigantic thing.
Which just seems to go counter to probably the driving force of this change to begin with. The word I was trying to look for earlier when describing Steve Huffman and his actions around this was contemptuous. I feel contempt coming from him when it comes to talking about the moderators of this platform that have been doing all this free work for him. And I think that's what really poisons me about this whole situation. Like, kind of like with Elon Musk and Twitter, there were things that Elon was doing that made me not want to touch Twitter because it felt dirty, and now I'm like got this contemptuous thing happening over here with Reddit, and I don't want all my social networks that I care about to just go away. Like, what am I going to do? You know, I guess I just don't use them as much. I actually fired up my my very untouched TikTok account earlier today because I was like, there's a lot of stuff happening right now that I care about, a lot of stuff in my life and here at TWiT, and I'll talk about it later and everything, but like I have no place outside of shows on this network where I can really kind of talk about this stuff on a passing day-to-day level. I used to do that on Twitter. I don't really anymore because I don't really want to do it in that way. And I was like, well, what if I use TikTok the way I use Twitter? So I'll just try that and see how that goes. I don't know where it's going to go. But anyways, that's my plan. But then something's going to happen to TikTok. This just seems to be the way of the world with social media right now.